Part 1, I located and explored the lost home of Darlene from the 1970 Penn State University documentary, The Darlene Chronicles. If you have watched the documentary, you know there was a second home that Darlene moved into in 1983. In this episode, I locate and explore that area. As P.J. O'Connell mentioned in the original documentary, the second house was located just across the valley from the old house.
All right,
I had just started recording when a vehicle pulled up and the driver asked me what I was doing there. Turns out that this guy was the property owner and actually purchased the property from Darlene and Bob.
This is where the house would have been where she just moved into in 1983. So the crazy thing is, I show up here and the guy that owns the property, he actually owns a business up here, some type of transportation business, but he was willing to come out and talk to me. He's actually the guy that bought this house while they still lived here. So he told me some really good information. So the guy that bought the property, he ended up having to evict them out of this house here. So the day came to actually get them out and they refused to leave. So he actually did have them evicted by the sheriff at that time. He felt really bad for him and he ended up putting them up inside of a hotel, or actually a motel in the area. I think it's called the Rolling Rock Motel. But he paid for a couple months for them to stay in this motel before they moved into the address where she ultimately passed away. But this right here was the lot where the 1983 house was located that Darlene, Bud, and Bob lived in. The owner told me extensive stories about Bob and Bud living here, and it was pretty cool though. So there was still no water in this house, and I guess there was a spring running into the basement of this house, and that's where Darlene would get her water at. Now, I was told by the owner of the property that across the street was another house where Darlene was living at for a while before she actually moved into this one here. But unfortunately, the house no longer exists. The owner had it torn down, and apparently the neighbors were pretty happy about it, considering the fact that it was kind of an eyesore in the area. Alright, going down here to see if I can find some of the foundation of this other house across the street.
No luck, unfortunately, but I'll definitely be back to check that out.
So the owner of the property told me a story where I guess Bud actually went to the hospital. So Bob stayed here with Darlene because Bob owned the property. But when Bud got back from the hospital, Bob basically told me he wasn't allowed to come back in the house. And that was kind of the end of Bud's involvement with the two. It looks like it might be part of the natural spring the owner was referring to.
28, and I've got 4 kids. And I'm also married.